Hey singers, today's pep talk is about how to prevent hat hair. No, I totally made that up. It's because I have a chronic case of hat hair all winter, so I think it'd be, pretty ironic for me to be talking about how to prevent hat hair when I can't prevent it myself. So actually, today's topic is part one of a two-part series about sleeping and waking and the best ways to make that work for you. So starting off, we're going to talk about the ways during the day you can actually prepare for sleep that night. One excellent way is to make sure that you get exercise during the day. If your body is gonna get enough of a cardio workout, then your body's gonna be more likely to want to sleep later. It'll get a little bit worn out, but it'll also be working correctly. It'll have the right balance of chemicals and everything, and all that nice stuff. Along with that, eating healthy and making sure you don't eat your biggest meal at dinner time. I know a lot of times in college it's kind of hard to try to plan out everything so that you have equal distribution of food throughout the day. But if you can manage, really try to make sure that your dinner time or your last meal of the day is a smaller one. Because if your body's working on digesting, it's going to be harder for you to get to sleep because your body's going to be doing that the whole time. Then once it gets to be bedtime, try to make sure that you set a regular bedtime every night if you can. I know it's hard sometimes. We have a lot going on in our lives. But try to maintain like a set bedtime. If you do it at the same time every night, there's a thing in our body called circadian rhythms. It's a scientific term meaning basically the rhythms and cycles of our body that we don't really control, but we can also help out. So it means that basically our body's designed to wake up when the sun rises, go to bed when it gets dark. Of course, modern society, we don't really do that, but we can encourage that in certain ways. One great way is to make sure that when you're getting ready for bed, don't have any bright lights on. To have as minimal lighting as possible. The darker it is, the more likely you are to want to get to sleep. Also, that goes along with the computer. I know it's kind of almost impossible to avoid not using a computer these days, but maybe if it's right before bed and you're using a computer, try like dimming the brightness on the display. That way you won't be getting as much artificial lighting. Another great way is to maybe put off reading until right before bed. That way, because reading is an activity that helps you get to sleep. If you can read instead of using the computer, that's definitely going to help. You want to have your room to be somewhat cooler rather than hotter. I know like it feels really comfy to get into bed. And, it's like 90 degrees in the room and, oh, I'm so snuggly in bed. But it's better off to have it kind of cooler because you want enough ventilation in the room. I know a lot of people sleep with the window open. I know like if it's right next to your head, it's probably not a good idea because it might just make you freezing. But if it's cool and there's air circulating, that's going to help you get to sleep actually, even though it doesn't actually sound exactly sounds actually kind of counterintuitive. But that is one way to actually help you get to sleep. Another thing is there are little things you can try to help you get to sleep. I know they say for children and babies, they say that like, oh, a little warm milk always helps, and actually that works for anybody. So if you like milk, it's not for me, but if you're into a little warm milk, then definitely try a little bit of that. Another thing is like chamomile tea. A lot of different herbal teas, especially make sure it's no caffeine. Any sort of caffeine, you want to avoid that because that's going to keep you up. But if you can get chamomile tea, that sometimes helps. I know some people too, they even resort to taking little vitamins of melatonin. Melatonin is the chemical in your brain basically that tells your body to go to sleep. And if for some reason your cycles are off or something and your body isn't producing enough melatonin on its own, then sometimes you might want to help it out a little bit. But I would talk to your doctor first about that before pursuing anything like that in your own. So remember, during the day, you're going to get exercise and eat well. Then before bedtime, you're going to make sure your room's nice and dark and you're not going to stimulate yourself too much by using the computer or watching TV, and then when it's time for bed, maybe take a little chamomile tea or something. And so hopefully that's part one of sleeping and waking. Part two is going to be waking, but first we have to wake. It's going to be to be continued. ... So hopefully you have a great week, and I will see you next week.